Good evening, everyone. My name's Sam, and I am the Community Energy Coach. And our program supports communities, local governments, and industry stakeholders in the promotion of the CleanBC rebate programs, as well as the education of heat pumps. We are also joined today by my colleague, Elena, who will be presenting for you. This webinar, of course, is being recorded, and all rebate amounts are reflective of what is available today, October 21st. And for the most up-to-date information, for sure, check out our website, betterhomesbc.ca. This webinar is in partnership with the town of View Royal, and we're also joined by some members of the View Royal Climate Coalition in the audience today. So if you have any interest in joining the group or have any questions, please reach out to Jane in the chat. I think she'll also pop in and say a hello in the chat for everyone as well. Speaking of the chat, definitely feel free to ask some questions along the way. I'll be monitoring and do my best to answer those questions as they come in. And we will have a short Q&A at the end of the webinar as well. We would like to acknowledge with respect the Coast and Strait Salish and WSÁNEĆ peoples on whose traditional and unceded territory we are presenting today, and the Lekwungen, Songhees, Esquimalt, and WSÁNEĆ, whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day. And for all of you joining us, we are here in Victoria, for those of you in View Royal and elsewhere. I definitely encourage everyone to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territories you're joining us on today. And with that, I'll pass things off to Elena.
Thanks, Sam. Hello, everyone. My name is Elena, and I'm very excited to educate a little bit more about heat pumps today. First of all, I would like to thank you for taking the time tonight to learn about heat pumps. So we're going to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. We will get started by me explaining you how heat pumps work, really the basics. The types of heat pumps that are most commonly used here on Vancouver Island and actually in all of BC. We want to share why we get so excited about heat pumps, what the benefits are, things you should know before you buy a heat pump, things you should know once you have a heat pump. I want to show you what some people here in the CRD say about their heat pump that they have received. And of course, at the end, we will jump into the rebates that are available. I know a few have joined since Sam did her little introduction speech. So I want to say that there are amazing rebates out there. And like I said, there is a lot of ground to cover. So the information might be a little bit overwhelming for this short webinar, but I will also show you a really great resource where you can learn more about the rebates and have a one-on-one conversation with an energy coach of how to access them. Without further ado, let's get started here. Before I talk about the heat pumps, I do want to talk about a principle that is equally important, and that is the house as a system approach. So for everyone who wants to change anything in their house that has to do with energy efficiency, in our case here, heating systems, it is very important to understand that your whole building is kind of interacting as a system. So before you get a heat pump or any other heating system installed, it's very important to consider your building envelope. So that's your walls, your insulation levels, your attic, your air tightness of the home, the windows and doors, because you could install the very best heat pump in the world. If you have a poorly insulated house that is leaky and has single pane windows, then you will lose a lot of that heat and consequently money. So we always recommend that you get started with an EnerGuide home evaluation. That is an unbiased assessment of your home where you receive reports with basically kind of like an energy efficiency upgrade roadmap of upgrades that are recommended for your specific home in a prioritized order. I will get into more detail about those evaluations later, but that is just a very important principle to understand before thinking about a new heat pump. And heat pumps is why we're all here. So we're going to get started with how a heat pump works and how it is so different from other heating systems. here in Canada, the heat pumps are an electric heating system, and it is worldwide the most energy efficient heating system that you can possibly get. It's about 3 to 4 times as energy efficient as an electric furnace or baseboards, and also 3 to 4 times as efficient as the most efficient gas furnace you can get. In BC, we're very fortunate that our electricity comes from hydroelectricity. So here our electricity is considered almost carbon neutral, which makes the heat pumps not only the most efficient, but also the most climate friendly way to heat a house. Yeah, in fact, I think that all of you have a type of heat pump at home because your refrigerator, in fact, is really just an insulated box with a type of heat pump in it. And I think it's really great to explain it using the example of the fridge, because what you can see here is that the refrigerator has these refrigerant lines in it that give it the name. And those refrigerant lines, they absorb heat energy from the inside of the fridge, which is then moved through a compressor. This compressor here pumps the temperature level up to a higher temperature level and basically releases heat to the inside of your home. I know that we all try to avoid looking at what's behind our fridge, but if you did, you would realize that there's warm air coming out on the backside, and that's exactly how a heat pump would work as well. So I'll show you that with a picture of an actual heat pump. So in this picture, you can see the inside of a house and you can see the outside of a house. So a heat pump is made out of an outdoor unit and an indoor unit, in this case, an air handler with ductwork throughout the house. And in this outdoor unit, similar to the fridge, there is the compressor somewhere in here. Even on cold winter days, the refrigerant lines that are in this outdoor unit can absorb heat energy from the ambient air, which is then moved through the compressor and moved into your home, where it's then released to the house, in this case via ductwork and vents. And like I said, even on cold winter days, you still absorb a lot of heat energy from the air and pump it up to a higher temperature level. Now, let's flip it and let's say it's summertime and the inside of your house is hot, humid, muggy, and then you can just take your thermostat and switch your heat pump from heating to cooling mode. And what it does then is the refrigerant will absorb the heat energy from the ambient air here, and is, instead of being pumped to the inside, it's pumped to the outside, where it is led through the compressor, pumped to a higher energy temperature level, and released to the ambient air. So that way, a heat pump moves heat from the inside to the outside and cools your home. So it's an all-in-one system, which makes it such an efficient and such a great way to heat and cool your house. Here we see a different type of heat pump. So instead of having a bigger outdoor unit, you have the smaller outdoor unit, and the refrigerant lines lead to an indoor head in the home. We call that a ductless heat pump. And what you see here, it absorbs heat from the ambient air, transfers it to the inside of the home, and releases it through these indoor heads. And if it was summer mode, or a cooling mode, I should say, the refrigerant would absorb the heat from the inside of the house and move it to the outside. So I guess I already got in, I touched on the different types of heat pumps, but here you see what we call a central system heat pump. So a central system heat pump has a larger outdoor unit, and it is connected to an air handler inside your house that distributes the hot air through ductwork. In real life, it looks something like this. And we have the ductless heat pump, which usually has a smaller outdoor unit, and then it has these refrigerant lines, very thin lines, that are connected to one or multiple indoor heads that are mounted on the top of the wall inside. And the ductless heat pumps, they come with many different names. So you might have heard the term mini split. That's one indoor head. Multi-split, that's two indoor heads. Sometimes they're just called split systems. And among the mini split heat pumps, there's even ducted mini splits. So you could have a combination of an indoor head in a dining room, kitchen, living room, combined space situation. And then some people have mini ducts installed in the attic or in a crawl space to connect to the odd bedroom, for example. So there's multiple configurations possible, and that makes a mini split such an all-round option for the home. If you wanted to compare those two heating systems, both the central system and the mini split heat pump provide air conditioning. Only the ductless heat pump provides zonal heating. So zonal heating just means that you can heat one part of the house to a different temperature level than another. Only the central system, of course, requires ductwork in the house, but both heat pumps do provide air conditioning. Air filtration and dehumidification. So I will get into more detail about that later. If we look at different types of homes, it's definitely a good idea to talk to a contractor, but technically speaking, a home that has pre-existing ductwork from an electric furnace or a gas furnace, for example, you could consider a central system heat pump and use that ductwork. However, if you have a house, and I know there's a lot of people in this webinar who probably have electric baseboards, then you don't have any pre-existing ductwork, and a mini split heat pump might be a really great option because you can install those indoor heads. And also those kind of homes that have an open layout concept and that have maybe a basement suite, and you want to be able to heat the basement suite to a different temperature level than the rest of the house. So now let's talk about cost real quick. That is a very popular question and maybe a more unpopular answer because it's a typical it depends answer. If you ask any heat pump installer, what's a ballpark cost for installing a heat pump? Every installer will say, well, it depends. And that is true. So we show some average cost ranges here. However, I do want to say, I do want to put a little disclaimer because all this data is from a previous rebate program that was called the oil to heat pump program, where people got a rebate for switching from oil to a heat pump. And we got a huge range of cost data from that program. The thing is, there were heat pumps in there that started at $4,000, and then there were heat pumps that were well over $20,000. So you see that the range is very, very broad in terms of cost. And what we display here is the higher end of the average cost range of heat pumps that were installed for this program. However, like I said, the range is broad, so your specific heat pump for your specific home could be much cheaper than this or more expensive. But generally speaking, if you take the average cost of a gas furnace and then the average cost for a mini split or a central system, and you apply current rebates, then you will see that natural gas furnace and heat pumps are very comparable in terms of installation cost. So why do we get so excited about heat pumps? To summarize it for you, heat pumps provide year-round comfort. You get a more climate-friendly home. For a lot of us, it is important to live in a more climate-friendly home. It's the most energy-efficient heating and cooling system available worldwide. And you get a healthier home. And if you heat with a fossil fuel right now, you wouldn't pay any carbon tax on your energy bill. I want to take a closer look at that efficiency because we get a lot of questions about, well, how is it possible that a heat pump is 300 or 400% efficient? Well, what makes the heat pump so much different than any other heating system is that instead of creating heat from scratch by either burning a fuel to create heat or by using electricity and electric baseboards to turn them into heat energy, a heat pump uses heat that is already available in the ambient air and moves it to a different place. So if you have the outside here, there is heat energy in the ambient air on a cold winter day that is already there. You don't need to pay for that, but you only pay for some extra electricity that is used for the compressor, for example, and use that heat energy that's already there to pump it up to a higher temperature level and receive the same heat output without having to pay as much. If you had electric baseboards, your electric baseboards will have an efficiency of 100%, which is great. So no electricity is lost. The whole electricity is turned into heat energy. However, for the heat pump, because it uses heat that's already available, it needs much less energy to get the same heat output. That makes the heat pump such a unique and genius system. So now that well over half of, almost 3/4 of you who are joining here today have an electric heating system or have indicated that they have an electric heating system. And among the electric heating system, a heat pump is definitely the most cost-effective option. That goes hand in hand with the efficiency. Your heat pump will use a lot less energy, electricity than your electric baseboards or furnace, so you will save money on your bills. And this is something that is basically threatening all of us: climate change, greenhouse gas emissions. What we have here is a picture from a publication from the Capital Regional District, where they used an energy model of a typical home, and they modeled it with an oil furnace, a gas furnace, and then a heat pump to compare the greenhouse gas emissions. And I don't think it's a secret that oil furnaces have very significant greenhouse gas emissions. However, even in comparison, gas furnaces are still very carbon intensive. And because in BC we have hydroelectricity, a heat pump is the most climate friendly way to heat a home and also the most energy efficient. So to lower the carbon footprint of a home, the best way to do that is to install a heat pump. Earlier I said heat pumps provide air filtration and dehumidification. So that's a really, really great aspect of heat pumps. They provide very effective air filtration and humidity control that can help your home rid of any indoor pollutants, dust, pollen, allergens. So if you have any people at home who have issues with allergies, or also, quite frankly, unfortunately, we're all having our problems with forest fires almost every summer now, a heat pump really helps you keep the indoor air clean and more healthy. And I will talk about that when I talk about the operating tips, but heat pumps are a very simple system to use. They run very continuously and very efficiently. So the heat pump uses the set it and forget it system when it comes to setting the preferred temperature level and leaving it at that. More later. This here is, of course, only true for mini-split ductless heat pumps, but they do provide zonal heating. So I actually lived in a home right on the border to View Royal a few years ago, and it was a house with a basement suite. And in that house, there was a heat pump installed, a mini split heat pump with an indoor head upstairs and one downstairs in the basement suite, which was great because the party that was living upstairs could heat it to their temperature preferences, and the people downstairs could do the same. So if you have any basement suites or you have areas in your home that you would like to heat to different temperature levels, then for example, the bedroom, then a mini split heat pump is a really, really great option. Also, heat pumps are quite frankly just the heating system of the future. Because of their efficiency that is so much better than any other heating system, a lot of people, especially here on Vancouver Island, where the climate is mild, people get it installed. So the couple here on this picture, they're from Saanich, and for them it was really important to have a home that's ready for the future and resilient to climate change. So they had solar panels installed, they have an electric vehicle, and I believe they switched from oil heating. For them, it was just really important to have a heating system that's clean and also just to go with, with the future and have a really efficient heating system. I don't believe that a lot here rely on wood heating. However, that is still very common, especially in central Saanich, in those areas, Cowichan Valley. A lot of people rely on wood heating, like this gentleman here from Saanich. He got sick and tired of cutting and hauling wood into the home, and he decided to install a mini split heat pump. You see the indoor head here in the background. And now he still enjoys wood, but really just for ambience and doesn't rely on it anymore. So those are all really great tips, and I hope that you're convinced that heat pumps are a great option for your home. But we do want to share some important tips of things that you should know before you buy a heat pump. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to go with a quality and qualified installer. So it's definitely worth the time and effort to do your research, to ask a lot of questions, and especially to obtain multiple quotes from different installers. We will later share on the CleanBC website, the CleanBC Better Homes website, a search tool where you can find contractors in your area. But it's important that you ask a lot of questions. For instance, do you specialize in heat pumps? Are heat pumps the most common heating systems your company installs? How knowledgeable are you about the rebates? Do you provide free quotes? How do you size your heat pumps? Do you do heat load calculations of the homes? And so on and so on. So I cannot emphasize enough how important that aspect is. The second tip, I mentioned it at the very beginning, is the house as a system. Make sure that before you get a new heating system installed, no matter what it is, that you address the air leakage and insulation issues of your home. The best way to identify that is to talk to an energy advisor who can do energy home evaluations in an unbiased way. But you want to get your home well insulated, nice and airtight before you install a new heating system so you don't lose all that heat. And lastly, make sure that you get yourself an installer that will size your heat pump properly, that your heat pump is designed for the climate, and that it considers supplementary heating system if necessary. Okay, once you have bought a heat pump, there's some things that you need to know about them because they do function differently, as we learned, than other heating systems. And the first operating tip is to set your thermostat to your preferred temperature level and forget it. That just means that you are not supposed to turn your heat pump off every time you leave the house and then come back home and crank it up again. I think a lot of people mean well when they do that because they weren't educated properly in how to operate the heat pump. They think they're going to save extra electricity if they just turn the heat pump off and then they crank it when they come home. However, what they don't consider is that it's not like any other heating system that creates heat from scratch in a very fast way. A heat pump needs to absorb heat energy and then pump it up to a higher level with the compressor, and that takes some time. A heat pump takes a little bit of time to get get going. But once it's going, it's going. It will run very, very continuously, steadily, and very efficiently. And in fact, a heat pump will run much more efficiently if if you don't fiddle around with it. Of course, you can change it by a few degrees for nighttime, for example, but it will run the most efficient if you leave it at a certain temperature level. And the second operating tip is related to that, and it's related to a transition period. If you have a natural gas or oil furnace, because if you have a natural gas or oil furnace, you will be used to intermittent blasts of hot air. And that air from a gas or oil furnace feels comparatively hotter than the air that's coming out of the vents from a heat pump. A heat pump will still heat your home to 21, 22, 23 degrees, whatever you choose, very efficiently. However, the air that's coming out of the vents might feel cooler in comparison. So some people in the transition period like to turn their thermostat a degree or two higher than what they're used to. And heat pumps are pretty easy when it comes to maintenance. Really, it's just, when you buy a heat pump, check the manufacturer's manual. Nobody likes to read manuals, but it's worth it to just take a look at it when you buy it. Clean the indoor filters of dust and pollen. Highly recommend to do that after a season of forest fires. And of course, for the mini split heat pumps that are operated with a remote control, you'll want to replace the battery and the remote control if necessary. And then seasonally, so in the spring and in the fall, you want to clear the outdoor unit of any debris, leaves, snow, dirt, especially after some winter storms. And then every year, schedule a service appointment with your installer. That's another question you can ask your installer if that's something that they offer. And yeah, you just want to make sure that the refrigerant is still all good and running and that everything is fine with your heat pump. So what you can expect after the installation of a heat pump is what I mentioned before, no more intermittent blasts of hot air. So because heat pumps run much more continuously and efficiently, they don't burn a fuel, you will not have those intermittent blasts anymore. Either way, no matter what heating system you're switching from, you will be expecting changes to your hydro bill. So if you're switching from an electric heating system, because the heat pump is much more efficient, you will likely see a decrease in your hydro bills. If you're switching from a fossil fuel, then of course, now that you're heating electrically, your electricity bills will go up, which is offset by a decrease in the fossil fuel consumption and those bills. And what you should, of course, also know, that's self-explanatory really, is that if you hadn't had a cooling system beforehand and now you cool with your heat pump, you will pay for that extra cooling that you use now. Lastly, some people are very concerned about the outdoor noise of a heat pump. However, heat pumps, they do make some noise. However, every heat pump comes with a sound rating, and compared to the older generation of heat pumps, the newer heat pumps are much, much more quiet. There's also bylaws, municipal bylaws, so you can't just put a heat pump wherever you want on the property. There's lots of little tricks that people can work with where they put them on rubber mats, or some installers work with hedges. And the city of Vancouver actually has a really great heat pump and noise FAQ pamphlet that debunks a lot of myths about heat pumps and noise. So when you receive a copy of this presentation, then you can check out that that handout basically. It has some really great information about heat pumps and noise. All right, before we jump into the rebates, I'm quickly gonna take a quick sip of water because That's going to be a bit of information. Okay, so first, what I want to say, in case you haven't heard Sam earlier, is that there are many, many great rebates out there at the moment for heat pumps. All the rebates that we are presenting on today, they are available as of today, October 21st, 2021. And that means rebate programs can change. So if you're getting a heat pump installed much later than that, it's definitely a good idea to check out the resource that I'm going to share with you now, and also call an energy coach to discuss what's available for you today. And I do want to say that because there are so many rebates out there, there are a lot of requirements. So I could probably talk about the rebates until midnight today, but nobody would want to stay on this webinar until then. So the information is very compressed. So in case you find this a lot of information to take in at once, again, I will share those resources now. And please don't be shy to call or email an energy coach and discuss your situation. First of all, where can you find all that information? I want to introduce to you the CleanBC Better Homes program. The website is betterhomesbc.ca. And on this website, this is a website designed for British Columbians to be the main information hub for rebates and upgrades all around energy efficiency in homes. On this website, you can find unbiased information about heat pumps, windows, insulation, all those things, EnerGuide home evaluations. You can find contractors and energy advisors, and you have this rebate search tool that I'll talk about in a sec. The CleanBC Better Homes website comes with a really, really great resource that's called the CleanBC Energy Coach Service. And the Energy Coach Service is a toll-free phone number and an email address, and you can talk to real people, a very well-educated team, very well-trained team. They really know their stuff about all the rebates and where to get started with getting a heat pump and how to access the rebates. They are available for you Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 under this toll-free number, and you can always email them at ask@betterhomesbc.ca as well. On the website, there is the rebate search tool. So you just have to indicate that you're renovating home. You indicate where you're located, and then you put your primary heating system. After you hit submit, you get a long list of all kinds of rebates that you could potentially access. And for example, if you click on this one here, the central air source heat pump rebate, then you will get to a summary page. And on that summary page, there's all the information that you need for this rebate. So for example, program requirements, application steps, deadlines, those kind of things, qualifying product lists. So that's the resource. Definitely check it out. Now I want to introduce you to two programs. There's currently two major rebate programs out there that include heat pump rebates. One program is federal. It's called Canada Greener Homes Grant. And the other program is our CleanBC Better Homes rebates that are here available here in BC. So I'll get started with the provincial program. For the provincial CleanBC programs, you must live in an eligible home that is a single family home, side-by-side row home, duplex, or mobile home on a permanent foundation. There's different rebates amounts for heat pumps depending on the type of heating system that you're replacing. So in the next slides, I will show you how much you can expect depending on what your heating system is. It is important that your heat pump has to become the primary heating system of the home, so you can't just use it for air conditioning. And a lot of people do assume that any heat pump would qualify, which is not true. a heat pump has to meet certain efficiency requirements and it has to be on a qualifying product list. So next slides, I'm going to show you the amounts that you can expect. And we're going to start with homes that are heated with electricity. So for electrically heated homes, which is the majority of you tonight here, you can expect $1,000 for switching from an electric heating system to a mini split heat pump. So those are the ductless ones. Or $2,000 if you go with a central system that has ductwork throughout the house. You cannot get a rebate through the provincial program if you're replacing an existing heat pump with a new heat pump. So the rebates for electrically heated homes come from BC Hydro, and BC Hydro wants you to use an eligibility tool first to check if you use enough electricity to be eligible for this rebate. So what you have to do, very first step, is to go on bchydro.com/hero/eligibility. You will find it on the CleanBC website too, and on BC Hydro's website as well. And you have to put your BC Hydro account number and the square footage of your home, and it will tell you whether or not you qualify for this. Real quick, because I don't think there's many wood heated homes, but it's the same rebates as for electrically heated homes. And if you find yourself in a home that has wood and electric heating and you're not really sure which one you are, then you can use that same electricity consumption tool. And if you fail it, your house is considered wood heated. If you meet the requirements, your house is considered electrically heated. And moving on, we're going to talk about those homes that have fossil fuel heating. So those are only the homes that have oil, gas, or propane. And recently, on September 28th this year, BC Hydro announced their electrification plan. Part of this electrification plan is that BC Hydro gives homes that have fossil fuel heating, that switch from fossil fuel heating to a heat pump, an extra $3,000 to their existing rebate for all heat pumps that were installed on or after September 28th, 2021 and have an invoice date then. That is included in this rebate amount. So for all fossil fuel switching, oil, gas, propane to a heat pump, usually the rebate is $3,000. And with this BC Hydro top up, it is now $6,000 that you automatically get. And there are a few other types of heat pumps. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but in this case, it's a dual fuel heat pump that uses a gas furnace as a backup. The rebate is lower, $3,000. Then there are heat pumps that instead of using forced air, they use water, like for in-floor heating or radiators. And in a lot of cases where you switch from oil, propane, or gas to a heat pump, you have to upgrade your electric service panel. So that's something an installer could tell you if that's the case for you. But if it is, then you can get a $500 rebate for upgrading your panel. So that's the rebates. And rebates really just mean you pay up front and then you submit an application and you get reimbursed for a portion. There is an alternative if that's not what you want to do. There is a low interest financing program instead. This is also only available if you're switching from oil, gas, or propane to a heat pump. And you can choose 0% financing over 5 years. The loan is between $1,000 and $40,000. And this is an alternative to the rebates. So you cannot do rebates and financing. For the financing, you just got to know that it's not for electrically or wood heated homes, and you have to work with a specific contractor. They're called finance registered contractor because they set you up for your loan. And this is a really great fun add-on rebate. It's called the group purchase rebate. And the group purchase rebate really just rewards you if you get together as a group or a community and you all install a heat pump around the same time. So for example, that could be your neighborhood or a community group, a church group, whoever that all install a heat pump around the same time. You have to register for the group purchase rebate and join a group. And then depending on how many people you can get together, let's say you have a community group of 8 people and you all install the heat pump at around the same time, apply with the group purchase code, then each member of your group gets an extra $275 on top of their normal heat pump rebate. This group purchase rebate is also only available for fossil fuel switching. And the last offer for fossil fuel switching only is Municipal Top Ups. So specifically here, Town of View Royal offers an extra $350 to the normal rebate if you switch from oil, propane, or gas to a heat pump. This is automatically applied. You don't have to apply through an extra form. So that comes in very handy. You're probably wondering, well, okay, great, but where do I get started with finding a contractor? We have a contractor search tool on the CleanBC website. You can find it under betterhomesbc.ca/PRC. That stands for Program Registered Contractor, but you can also find it through the menu button on the website under Find Contractor. And all you have to do is type in or select that you're intending to install a heat pump and your location, and then you get a list of contractors that can install heat pumps. You do not have to work with one of those contractors to get a rebate, but it's a really great place to start because those contractors have gone through some rebate program training and best practice installation training, so they at least know about the rebates and they know what they have to put on your invoice. All right, that's it provincially. Now, lastly, I want to introduce the federal program real quick. So it's a totally separate program. You might have heard of it. It launched in May this year, and it's called Canada Greener Homes Grant. So it's available Canada-wide. And what you got to know about this program is that it offers up to $5,000 towards upgrades. Those upgrades could be solar panels, insulation, windows, or a heat pump, but you have to know that it maxes out at $5,000. And it also offers you a $600 grant towards the cost of an EnerGuide home evaluation, because an EnerGuide home evaluation is required before and after you do upgrades. That is not a requirement for the CleanBC rebates, but for this federal program it is. Also, for Canada Greener Homes, rental homes do not qualify. So if you own a home, you as the homeowner have to live in the home to qualify. And the great news is you can both tap into the federal Canada Greener Homes grant and the provincial rebates and really maximize your rebates that way. But you can't make money with it. So it's for up to 100% of the total cost. Okay. Wow, but where to get started with those two programs? If you are looking to access all available rebates that you can get, then it's really best practice to start with an EnerGuide home evaluation, because the EnerGuide home evaluation is required for the federal program. You can find those energy advisors on the website, just like with the contractors. In this case, it's betterhomesbc.ca/EA, or again, through the menu button. And then for the federal program, you have to register through an online portal to get the process started officially. One thing that is extremely important to keep in mind with those two programs is that they have nothing to do with each other. They are two separate programs. They have two sets of rebate requirements and deadline requirements. So make sure to review them all. A great way to navigate them is with your energy advisor, or you can always call the Energy Coach Service toll-free to make sure that you're still on track. The deadlines are different. Canada Greener Homes doesn't currently have a deadline, but for all the CleanBC rebates, you always have to apply within 6 months of the invoice date. So when your heat pump's installed, you have 6 months to apply. For Canada Greener Homes, you apply after you're done with everything and you've done your post-retrofit evaluation. Wow, lots of information. I warned you, but if you have any questions, if this was all too much, then here are some really, really great contacts. First and foremost, our CleanBC Energy Coach Service, great team. They really know their stuff. Don't be shy, contact them. For Canada Greener Homes specific questions, really in-depth questions, you can call their hotline, or you can email the world's largest email address that you've ever seen. And provincially, the CleanBC rebates, they are administered by BC Hydro and FortisBC, and you can see the program contact information on here as well. So those are the folks who deal with the applications later on. That's it from me. And I would like to end the presentation by saying a huge thank you to all of you for being so curious tonight to wanting to learn more about heat pumps. I hope you know more now than you did before an hour ago. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I will keep this slide open here so you can take some notes for contact information. And with that, thank you very much. And I will pass it on to Sam for any questions.
Thanks again. And got a couple questions I was responding to just at the end here. So we will chat about some of the questions. I will stop the recording now.